They're big gamer and anime nerds.
Yeah.
By the way, too.
The people who made The Matrix?
No. Yeah.
What do you know about two certified bangers? PhantasmaCast.
Welcome back to PhantasmaCast, where we talk about movies we like, and
You should too.
I'm guy number 1.
I'm guy number 2.
And today's double feature is 1996's Bound and 2024's Love Lies Bleeding. Top of the show reminder that the best way to listen to new episodes as they release is to subscribe to PhantasmaCast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And you can catch us on Instagram or TikTok by looking up PhantasmaCast or our handle at 2CertifiedBangers. Now back to the show, and I'll start today's episode with a kind of a serious note, like a disclaimer, just because it is Pride Month now, and these are queer films. And Jake and I had some discussions about how best to handle this episode. So let's start off with the obvious. We are dudes. We are men on a podcast talking about movies. We've chosen to discuss Bound and Love Lies Bleeding, movies that center queer female characters, and unapologetically so. And that fact may upset people just at face value for any reason, you know? So we're likely to displease some folks despite our best efforts to please everyone. And just sometimes there's nothing we can say, you know, to make you give a damn about us or what we want to talk about. And we realize this may be one of those cases. But to any of our queer or gay listeners, happy Pride. Here at PhantasmaCast, we're allies all year round. But this one is for you. And we want it to be special and not insulting or condescending in any way. But if you groaned or sighed at what I just said and are still listening, stick around. Honestly, we hope that you make it. We hope that if you made it this far into the episode, that you'll give us a chance and maybe dispel any, negative preconceptions that you had going into this episode. But if that's a deal breaker, then this is where our conversation with you ends. So goodbye. So, at the end of the day, what we want to do with every episode, our intent is to talk about movies we love because they're two certified bangers, but we know that our perspectives have limitations, and regardless of our passions for the movies that we talk about. And with some films, especially those that are held in high regard for their authenticity in representing characters that are otherwise misrepresented traditionally in films, with good intentions or otherwise, it can be a tricky minefield to navigate. So there are bound, pun, to be plenty of
There are Love Lies Bleeding to be plenty of.
Perfectly natural puns that we inserted there. There are bound to be plenty of things written or said about these movies by gay filmmakers, queer authors, critics, etc. So please check those out after watching this video, or even if you bounce off this video, go check them out. It's a win-win either way. But our hope is that this episode is more of a discussion with the community and not us speaking for them. So if that sounds acceptable, let's get into it. I'll start with Bound. Bound, okay? 1996, the Wachowskis' Bound. The back of the box here says, before they blew the world's mind with The Matrix. Heard of it? I'm wearing, for you audio listeners only, I'm wearing my Neo shirt, my Matrix shirt. I love this. Lana and Lily Wachowski delivered a jolt of pure pulp pleasure with their hyper-stylish debut, which puts a delicious... Wow. Learn how to read, Derek. Which puts a deliciously sapphic spin on a crackerjack caper premise. That is quite a sentence. When butch plumber Corky, Gina Gershon, catches the eye of alluring femme fatale, Violet, Jennifer Tilly, little does she know she's about to be drawn into both a torrid affair and a high-stakes heist that will pit the pair against the mob. With crackling dialogue, luscious neo-noir cinematography, and live wire performances by Gershon, Tilly, and Joe Pantoliano. Wow, I nailed it the first time. I usually mess up his name. Bound is a genre reimagining joyride that keeps both the tension and the erotic heat rising through each crazily careening twist. So for the viewers, the listeners at home, I had seen this several times by this point. But Jake, this was your first time viewing it?
This was my first time viewing it after many times of you saying you have to watch Bound.
I was pitching it.
And what's really funny is I think you had shown me at one point there was like an interview or something where it's Meg Tilly, Gina Gershon, and Joe Pantoliano.
Nailed it.
I was terrified. I wouldn't get it. And they're in a hot tub, right? Mm-hmm. And that entered my subconscious as it being part of the movie. So the whole movie, I'm sitting there wondering, when are they going to get in the hot tub together?
Wait a tick.
Yeah.
Where's the hot tub?
The whole time I'm like, I don't know, man. They all seem pretty pissed at each other.
I don't see how this is going to
How
happen.
the hell is this going to end in a hot tub?
It's just it's a Desperately Seeking Susan style ending where it just kind of like wraps up in a
Yeah.
And then they got into a hot tub. They returned the earrings to Egypt
Inexplicably.
Yeah, I think that was like a behind the scenes still of just them chilling outside.
Yeah.
Because I think the relationship there was Gina Gershon knew Joe Pantoliano. See, the more you practice, the better you get. They just call him Joey. So I'm going to use that as a segue to just say Joey from here on out. Gina Gershon knew Joey and was like, oh, I know a guy that's going to be perfect for this part. And turns out he was, because, yeah, the back of the box says he played Caesar, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, Caesar, Violet's mob boyfriend. And he is perfect.
He's perfect. And like, I feel like this was a perfect, like audition tape for him to be in The Sopranos later. Yes. And like as great as his performance is in both of these movies, I can't get him saying "hoa" out of my mind.
Yeah, and the way he says a certain he says a gay slur in this movie, in Bound, he says it very well, which I think he echoes earlier. I think he hints at it earlier when he catches Violet and Corky in the act, and he's like, he starts to get upset because he sees the tank top on Corky, and he's like, "Hey, what the fuck are you?" Oh. And he's like, it's a woman.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
He's like, it's freaking dark in here. That's how he delivers that line. Just a great line reader.
Yeah. Joe's great. Gina Gershon she embodies this heartthrob fucking role, like that was so easily a man's role, like in times past.
Yeah, and that's the note the Wachowskis constantly got when they were shopping around the script was like, "We love it. Make Corky a man, and it's all yours." And they said, "Fuck you."
They're like, "You're missing the point entirely."
Yeah. They said, "No way." Yeah. Great. It's not for you.
Yeah.
And then they moved on, and then they eventually got it into Dino De Laurentiis's hands, and he said, "Yeah."
Oh, really?
Dino De Laurentiis. Yeah, I knew that would.
Famously hard to work for, Dino De Laurentiis.
Yeah, he's like, hold on. There's potential here.
Yeah, you Wachowski boys got a good idea.
Yeah, there's a funny anecdote in the special features with Jennifer Tilly's interviews when she talks about Dino De Laurentiis.
Yeah,
she's talking a mile a minute. By the way, she's great. She loves everything. She loves her whole experience with this film. And she's like, yeah, we were talking to Dino, and Joey's on this diet at Dino's, like he's eating steamed vegetables and like like grilled chicken, and then me and Gina are just eating donuts. But she says that Dino De Laurentiis called Joey a character actor. She just threw on this heavy like Italian, this character actor. So I can't not think of that. Thank you, Jennifer Tilly.
Did I say Meg Tilly earlier?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, Jennifer Tilly.
That's okay. We just love Psycho 2 so
Yeah.
much. That's where that comes from. But yeah, the characters are so strong in this film. The style is so strong. And I think at the time that it came out, no one knew what to think of it because this is like the Wachowskis pre-transition. So on like the surface, they were like, what do these hetero guys know about lesbians? Right. And turns out they knew that. They knew that that was going to be like a criticism lobbed at them. So they went out and they sought like an expert. They sought this woman named Susie Bright. Do you know of her? You heard about this woman? So she served as the technical supervisor, I think is what her credit is on here. But in reality, Susie Bright was like this huge, like feminist, like a known feminist figure in like the adult film world, in like lesbian circles. She was, I don't know, she just like knew her stuff. And she had like this collection. Oh yeah, she's a feminist writer and sex educator. And she actually has a cameo in the movie. When they go to the lesbian bar, when Corky goes to the lesbian bar.
Please tell me she's the cop.
No, she's the other woman. Already sitting down.
Okay. Who Gina's putting the moves on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's her. And some people call her, no joke, I had to write this down because we were just talking about her. She's Susie Bright is known as the Pauline Kael of porn, which is awesome. But it's kind of like a jokey summation of how much good she did for pioneering like sex positivity and like definitely from a female perspective in like the late 70s on through the 90s. So she was like a big deal.
So what did she do for the movie?
So the Wachowskis sent her the script because they're like, oh, we love your collection. And I forgot to write that down. Bad researcher. But it was just like a collection of like various like lesbian, like just like sex stories, just like positive lesbian sex stories, not like lurid or from a man's perspective, you know, or for the male enjoyment. And they're like, we really love your writing. We'd appreciate your input on this if you'd love to have any involvement. And she says in her blog, she was like, I didn't know who these people were, like, because they had never made a film before. This was their first film. But she saw the Dino De Laurentiis like letterhead. She's like, hold on, that's a real film. That's a real filmmaker.
Yeah.
Let me check this out. And then she read the script and she said she was like gasping after every page. And she wrote back or called back and she was like, I love it. Here's my big note though. Like all of the like intimacy or the sex scenes like are kind of vague. It's just like they fall into each other, but then what happens? And like I would love to like have input on that to get some authenticity to that. And they were like, you're hired.
Right. Like any other, kind of erotic thriller made in the 90s about a heteronormative relationship would have, been like, this is going to be a sex scene. It's going to be a hot sex scene. There's going to be nudity. And it's going to be specific in like what they wanted to see on camera. So why not give that treatment to a lesbian, love story?
Yeah. It would be purely tits and ass.
Yeah.
And not heart.
Yeah.
Too. So I think that's great. And I think that definitely buoys its authenticity from just a lesbian story made by, at the time, hetero men, but later in life, trans women. And now it's like, oh my God, they were cooking, And I first found out, well, I'd seen it, of course, at like used video stores. I'd be like, Bound, that looks pretty good. Oh, it's Wachowski. I'll check it out eventually. I think I'd only ever seen like the DVD hanging around. So of course I sneered a little bit. I was like, oh, wait for the Blu-ray. Thank you very much.
Right. But then there's also, I think, kind of like like, oh, it's not sci-fi.
Right. That.
It's like, it's kind of like looking at, like Peter Jackson, like pre like his adventure movies.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a great comparison.
When you make that genre hop, you kind of are like, I don't know really what to expect from this. So maybe I'm a little scared of it actually.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But I'm glad that in 2023, the Criterion Channel, you know, the streaming service, was hosting an erotic thriller series. In, did I write down the month? I think it was like April, something like that. That doesn't matter. The fun fact is that it also featured Body Double. Heard of it? Yeah, right? Check out our Body Double episode. But what got me in was like, okay, Bound is up there. I'm going to watch it. And then it also had Jade. David Caruso in Jade.
Which you said we should pair with Unfaithful.
Maybe, yeah. I don't remember Jade being all that great. I think
Okay.
I think it's definitely worth a watch, but I don't know if it's like, wow, classic, you know? But it's worth a watch. So I watched that first, and then I watched Bound. And holy shit, my first response was anger. I was so angry that I had dismissed it for so long. It is so tightly crafted and just amazing right off the jump, from the title sequence of just swooping by the letters and those like noir, like long shadows right into the overhead shot of the closet. And then the voiceover of like, not, this is very reductive of like, but you're wondering how I got here, you know, kind of thing. But it is that like pulpy noir.
That's a genre
voiceover.
element, though,
Yeah.
you know? You gotta have it. You gotta.
Absolutely. And it's just so good. And then it just cuts to, you know, Corky in an elevator, and then Gina Gersh, then Jennifer Tilly, Violet, and then Caesar get in, and then Violet gives her a look, and that's it. That's that sparks immediately. I just thought it was so fucking good right off the bat.
It's like the epitome of like literally love at first sight, right?
Yeah.
No words are exchanged. It's just these two people who notice each other, and they know you're gonna be fucking the death of me one day.
Yeah. And it's not like she like looks her up and down, which is something like probably a male would do, right? It's just a knowing look. It's an intrigue. It's a respectful, like, desire look, which kind of, I'm trying to transition into something that I wanted to talk about, like, that's kind of a point of contention, perhaps, in, like, the queer community, but it's, like, the differentiation between the male gaze and something called the sapphic gaze, so just a quick history lesson on that. The male gaze is a concept from feminist theory that posits that women have been historically depicted as like objects of desire rather than subjects with desires themselves. You know, it's for a male viewer. It's for male pleasure. Not that women can't get pleasure from that, but the like intent can almost be traced back to being for men by men broadly.
AKA the last two movies that we watched.
Admittedly, yes.
Yeah.
You know, which doesn't mean they're not like without artistic merit. It's just, hey, that's part of it kind of thing. We're just identifying, not critiquing it as being bad because of that.
No, yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. You can understand the problems with something and still enjoy it, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the male gaze is different from the female gaze, which aims to like reclaim the agency of women as subjects, not objects, with desires outside of just being desired, right? And then there's the sapphic gaze, which is a queer spin on that, which is, it's like, hold on. Desire is all well and good, actually, but it's just about women loving women in like an empowering, sensual, playful way, like the agency is still there, but the desire, the sexuality, it's all there. Like, it's all of those elements, but without any of the baggage of like that like, it's hard for me to explain. It's without any of that male gaze baggage of like, yeah, like the leering quality of that.
I think like, there's an inference you can make about the male gaze that is about, I think, conquest.
Yeah. Yes.
Be it sexual conquest, as in, body double, or, like a financial conquest via sex that you see in Wild Things.
There's that intrinsic power dynamic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas what we see in Bound is it still allows you to have this noir plot, this thriller plot where the stakes are really high.
Yeah.
But you can still have this like genuine love story that's, that's not sterile either. It's passion fueled. It's sexy. It's hot. It's dirty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but it's not about one person kind of owning another person or capturing them.
Yes. That power is shared, and that's what makes Bound so unique. Is that it employs that everywhere. Like, you may not be aware of it. You can still enjoy the movie as just like a good noir thriller. If you know all of that, you can still like read it as, wow, it's so smart, it's so clever, it's so gay too.
I think that like the movie is also like, the Wachowskis are also like very conscious of that too, because Joey's character is all about owning Jennifer Tilly's character.
Yes.
She is less of a partner to him and more of like a trophy, that he can show off to his other, mob friends.
Yeah. And then he like reminds her of that later on, after like a lot of the plot, the heist stuff is kicked into effect, when it's like revealed that Violet is like plotting against him. He turns that around. He weaponizes that aspect of their relationship. He's like, you were nothing. All of this is something I gave to you. You don't have anything. You are nothing, basically. That's potent. That's powerful. That is quite literally what she is desperate to get away from, and what she sees as her life with Corky is that there is none of that bullshit. It is a shared power. It is a shared respect. It's a shared
real
love. Yeah. That's what the love is despite maybe like some of their personality differences, they respect each other's like agency in a way that Caesar never will, or any man ever will. I still have trouble processing that this is their first directorial debut, the Wachowskis, with Bound.
It makes me angry.
It does. Yeah, that's another reason why I was angry. When I first watched it, I was like, it's so good. You can't be this good right away.
It's so realized. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And in a way that was, in retrospect, part of their struggle for coming out later in life, is that this was their way of dealing with that. Those things that they were still dealing with behind the scenes, is that they had control of this movie because they had so little control of their internal queerness that they were not ready to come out yet. So they had to be so controlled on Bound that like everything was meticulously planned. A lot of like ideas that the actors were trying to bounce off of them, it was like, oh, well, no, you can't do that because that negates what you say later on. And that actually like earned Jennifer Tilly's respect, was like, oh, okay, they know what they're doing then.
Yeah,
like,
they know this character. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I trust them, even though this is their first film, they know what they're doing. And she says that's still like a rare quality.
Is that something they've expressed, that like, since they couldn't like have a kind of like command over their own identities, that they channeled it into their artwork?
Yeah. And I mostly learned this from, I want to say, all my interviews that I've seen of Lana, because Lana's a little bit more open with doing interviews than Lily is. Because in all of my interviews that I've seen of Lana, she was saying that the Matrix was highly controlled too. Like, there was not a single frame in that movie that has natural light in it. even when you think it would be, it's all on a stage. It's all artificial light. And that's something she purposefully tried to break away with. They both tried to break away with in Sense8 when they did that show for Netflix. There's a lot of natural light in that. It's a totally different style from The Matrix. You would not think it's the same creators because they are embracing their queerness in a way that they were repressing so much before. It's beautiful. And it's a lot of hit and miss or whatever, but man, they're swinging. They are swinging hard with Sense8. And then with The Matrix Resurrections, I don't know how much you know about this, but Warner Brothers, ever since The Matrix Revolutions, they've been pressured to make a sequel to that. Even though, like, listen, the story's done. We did what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
No thanks. But then The Matrix Resurrections came about because their parents died in 2019. Like, their father died. I think a friend of Lana's died. And then their mother died.
Wow.
Like, all within that year. And Lana said one night she just woke up and like had the idea for it. And she said it felt comforting. It was her way of grieving because it felt comforting to bring those characters back. And like, she can't have her parents, but she's got Neo and Trinity again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so touching. I love that. I'll be there day one. Thank you. And then she brought that perspective of like that different style of filmmaking to it, which a lot of people, not a lot of people, but you know, some people didn't like. They're like, this isn't the other Matrixes. Right. Because this isn't the same person. They've evolved. They've changed. And and their art reflects that. And I love that about the Wachowskis is that they have been evolving with who they are.
Constantly, right? Like we mentioned, like there's even a genre jump, you know, in the course of their career.
Yeah. I think that happened with Speed Racer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When they really got to be like big anime nerds, which they always were. They're big gamer and anime nerds.
Yeah.
By the way, too.
The people who made The Matrix?
No. Yeah. I never could have guessed. Yeah, they said one of the big Agent Smith fight in Revolutions is based off Dragon Ball Z.
Hell yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's my one thing I'll break out when people are like, you know what, the Matrix sequels weren't that good. I'm like, well, one of the fights is based on Dragon Ball Z, so you're an idiot, actually. And I just love those movies. I love all those movies so much. And falling down the rabbit hole of the Wachowskis made me rediscover some movies. Made me rediscover, in addition to Bound, another movie that you've been trying to get me on, and I've been dismissive of, which was Cloud Atlas.
Oh yeah, Cloud Atlas is a fucking masterpiece.
I love it. Yeah, it makes me cry every time. And I'm angry at people for being very dismissive of that movie too when it released. Not that all of the criticisms aren't invalid. It is still a beautiful piece of work, I think, overall.
Yeah. I mean, it is to me is a true piece of science fiction.
Yeah.
Because it explores an idea that we don't often talk about, right? That we can be multiple things at once.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Okay, I see what you're doing.
And what a perfect and it was a novel before, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what a perfect thing for them to like explore and want to create. And they are visionaries, so it's a beautiful film. It's got their signature, you know, style to it. I like, just because it's not a action film, I would say it has action sequences in it, but because it's more of a cerebral kind of science fiction film, I don't know. It's like you can trash a movie because it makes you think a little bit,
right, or makes you cry.
Yeah,
it's okay to cry. So one last thing I want to touch on is there's great special features on the Criterion of Bound, but the one you should definitely watch is called Playing with Expectations. In that they highlight how the sex between Violet and Corky is shot up close and intimate, and that's unique. That's very sapphic, actually, as opposed to how like a straight person would shoot a lesbian scene. like for being viewed, like watching them, like desiring them, and not reveling in their desire of each other. So I thought that was great.
Exploitative kind of way of shooting.
It's celebratory,
Yeah.
and not exploitative. And then Susie Bright also comments that she loves the like wetness of Bound. And if you're like, what the hell does that mean? It's a very like lesbian like minded thinking of like how sexy and how attractive like just like the womanhood of that kind of sexuality, as opposed to like the male version, which is like being hard and like being tough. This was like there was instances of wetness throughout the movie. I can think of like when Corky's cleaning the drain, she's digging that snake hose into there, and we see the water coming out of the drain there. We have when Corky's underneath the sink fixing the pipes to get the earring out of there. Her hands are just like the water is like shown as like being slowly cascading down her hands. That is a lesbian scene right there. And then
That's what we mean by wet.
Yes. And when she hides the money that they're stealing from Caesar, it's in like this bucket of paint, right? And it's like slowly lowered into it, and it's like enveloped by wetness. It's just like that kind of subtle stuff that is like good shots and just part of the movie. But again, like I said earlier, is gay as fuck too. But which that leads me into like the key scene that I just touched on about the earring in the pipe. I really want to talk about that scene because it starts almost like a cliche porno setup of like, hey, I'm over here to fix your pipes. You know, with Corky playing like the butch femme.
Yeah.
And
then Jennifer Tilly's like, I dropped it. I don't know.
whatever will I do? Oh, I'm in my negligee, you know? It's really funny because a lot of people comment our suspension of disbelief in that scene is that Gina Gershon is a butch femme. Because she's just so beautiful. Not that butch femme can't be beautiful, but she's beautiful in a way that like a traditional butch femme isn't.
She's Gina Gershon.
She's Gina Gershon.
But she's also is presenting very masculine.
Yeah. She gets to play that very well. And she loved playing that coming off of Showgirls, where she said she was like way more feminine, where she felt that was a much more feminine role. So she had a lot of fun playing the masculine type in this movie. So then in this scene, right, the whole concept is that Violet's like, oh, I need to get Corky alone. And this is I got to get her over with this ruse. So she's like, oh, I got something in my pipe. And she's playing up, she has like that lilt to her voice where she's playing like the soft femme, which she does switch up later in the movie after they've established a relationship. She gets to be more of like her huskier, like speaking voice, because that is like emphasizing like how close and comfortable and how much more she feels she can be herself around Corky, and she doesn't have to put on this I'm just a girl
which is kind of her like default mode when dealing with men too.
Absolutely.
Right? And she reveals that at some point in the movie where Gina Gershon is like you've got this comfortable like lifestyle, you know, like what about your life is hard? And she's like, everything. You know?
She's like, are you the only one that thinks they're good at something?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm working. I am putting on a mask essentially. But that scene, the earring in the pipe scene, she like leads her over. She's like, yeah, it's in there. Go ahead and take a look. She like busts out her wrench and her bucket. She's like loosening up the pipes, and we get really, really close shots and like in slow motion of her working with her hands, which we've already established is a very like intimate thing of just how Violet has noticed that Corky's hands are a certain way, and that's like a turn on. And that is actually a specific turn on in the lesbian community, is hands. So that was also very smart to incorporate into. That's very authentic, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just really funny and campy just to see like the water cascading over her hands as she's pulling out the pipes. The earring drops loose. She goes, "Is this it?"
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. Is this all you brought me over? She's like, "Oh yeah, nice." And I think they cut away. In the commentary, they said they might have cut away, but like Violet essentially just goes, "Nice," and just throws it over her shoulder. Yeah. And then it leads to, you know, the infamous kissing scene on the couch. I think it's kind of reductive to say it's the kissing scene. It's that seduction on the couch of like, "Oh, I love your tattoo." Even the tattoo, the labrys, is very lesbian. Mm-hmm. That symbol is very lesbian. And then it plays into Violet being like, "I've got one right here too. It took her all day. Want to touch it?" You know? And Corky's like, "What are we doing here?" You know? Corky's like, "Okay, we've pushed it enough. Like, are we in a porno right now? What are we doing here?" She's like, "Isn't it obvious?" And it's very, very intimate, very steamy. And that's what made the cover of the Criterion, actually, is that scene, that close-up shot of them just about.
Yes, very close. It's are we ready to do this dangerous thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. And like, even not to make it about a man real quick, but De Palma was trying to do that in his like beach 360 shot. Was like the sexy part isn't them kissing. It's when they're just about to. When they're
build
not.
up.
It's the build up to it.
Yeah.
And there is build up in this lead up to this kiss, and it is glorious.
Yeah.
I think it clinched right then when I first watched it. I was like, "Ah, yes, this is going to be a masterpiece. This is good. This is awesome." Another key scene that I really love is when Corky sees Shelley for the first time, the guy who's like skimming money off the top of the mob business. She sees him outside, and he's like on the phone calling up Violet, you know, and he's like, "Oh, Violet, I need help. I'm in trouble," or some shit like that, right? Corky's like hanging by the entrance, being like, "What's this? What's this crap about?" And then he hangs up the phone, and he like darts right past her into the door, just like kind of like virtually ignoring her presence. It's just like she's not there. He just walks right by her. And I wrote "gay erasure" much on here, but even when I watched that, I was like, he doesn't give a fuck. Like she might as well not be there. And that was like her being like very close to it, right? And then we cut to Corky seeing Shelley approach the apartment, and now it's from a distance, and she's watching, and now there's a big gay elephant in the room, and it's Corky's jealousy. She's like, "Oh no, he's over there to fuck her, this little bastard." But then we never see it. We never see any heterosex at all in this movie. We hear it like through the walls, or
I was gonna say, like, what heterosex?
yeah,
You know?
exactly. Yeah, we either hear about it in passing or we hear about it through the walls. And I think after we see Corky watching Shelley go into the apartment, we cut to her hearing the act through the walls. And then there's a cut to Violet like on her back. And we think, "Oh, we cut to that sex scene." But nope, we pan up and it's Corky putting on her pants. So we've already jumped to like the next day. So it reestablishes that no, it's the gay like sex that's important that we should see. Mm-hmm. And they have a fight there, you know, about what Corky was just dealing with in that scene. But I think that's a really key scene to touch on because it's very noir of like, what the hell's going on? But it's also really, really gay again too, of like this is what gay jealousy can look like. It has to be it almost is like unseen by the straight world in the way that straight sex is unseen in this world. It's just, "Oh, let me just push past you. It's just some girl down the hallway. Who cares?" It's just, "Oh, if she hears about it through the walls, again, who cares?" So I thought that was a really key scene to bring up. And my final key scene that I want to bring up before we move on is the final confrontation between Caesar and Violet, after, the plot has been revealed. They stole the $2 million, and Caesar knows that it's in the paint bucket next door that Corky's been hiding up in, waiting for like Caesar to leave, basically, and Violet to come over. And Caesar runs over to the room. I forget the immediate confrontation there. I think he fights with Corky very briefly, but eventually Violet has a gun and she points it at Caesar, and he has the nerve to try to be like, Violet, you're not gonna shoot me. I know you, So he plays the like, I'm your man. You wouldn't do this to your man. I know you.
Yeah.
He dares to play that card. And then she hits him with the Caesar, you don't know shit. Boom! Blows him a fucking way. And it's just, I can only imagine being a lesbian watching this movie when it premiered, being like, fuck. Yeah. That's what's up. That's the real shit right there. Not that it's like hating men, but it's hating that viewpoint, that like box that men are trying to put women in.
There's a smugness.
The smugness, yeah.
A very kind of old school, like, why would you like a woman when you could like a man?
When I provide for you.
Yeah. When like you'll never be complete without my cock. You know what I mean?
Yeah, It's very penis forward.
Yeah.
And this one, and then they take the gun, which is a very phallic thing, right? And says, "You don't know shit." Bow, bow, bow.
Yeah. Give him a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah.
You know?
Suck on this. So that's Bound. I mean, I think there's so much more we could talk about, but we would be here all day, especially if you let me talk more about the Wachowskis, which you definitely shouldn't let me do, because then it would be like, okay, but what about Bound? I was like, okay, well, I was talking about Cloud Outlets, blah, blah, blah.
We'll do a special Wachowski episode.
I would love to.
Later.
I would love to. But okay, now on to Love Lies Bleeding. Jake, you want to take us away?
On to Love Lies Bleeding. Yeah, like I think you had seen both of these movies before I had, right?
Actually, no.
No? We saw Love Lies Bleeding for the first time together?
Yeah.
All right, then.
Yeah.
However, we both had seen the trailer for Love Lies Bleeding.
Correct.
And we were like, A, this looks super gay.
Yeah.
B, this looks wonderful.
In that order.
Yeah. And so here, I'll read the back of the box real quick. From director Rose Glass comes an electric new love story. Reclusive gym manager Lou falls hard for Jackie, an ambitious bodybuilder headed through town to Vegas in pursuit of her dream. But their love ignites violence, pulling them deep into the web of Lou's criminal family. I think that's a very economical way of describing this movie. But, I want to describe this movie in the words of Tiger Salmon.
Yes.
Or Salmon. I can't, I'm really wondering what the pronunciation is on this one.
I want to believe it's Tiger Salmon.
Yeah, we'll go with Tiger Salmon. Tiger Salmon, if you're listening, and it is Tiger Salmon or, Salmon or whatever. Apologies.
Yeah.
But this was I think an Aussie writer. And so they described the movie in an article which was about macho sluts, the book that you see pop up a couple times in Love Lies Bleeding.
Oh, that's the actual title. It's called Macho Sluts.
The book?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, you get that shot of like the FBI agent and he's kind of reading it and he's like, he does one of these. Yeah. Because it is a book of, it's erotic fiction about, like it's a lesbian sex erotic fiction. It was very popular in that community in 1988 when it came out.
Yeah. That blows my mind that it's real. I thought it was like kind of played as like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Wouldn't it be funny if there was a book called Macho Sluts?
Yeah.
But that it's real. Shows what I know.
I think there's a nice kind of visual connection between that and then the women's room in Body Double. It's just called Sluts.
The Slut Store?
Yes.
I love the Slut Store. Yeah.
So Tiger Salmon describes the movie like this. She says, Take the badass women and natural born killers in Thelma and Louise, but make them gay. Hand them patriarchy smashing plot lines, mix in a few drug-fueled street fights reminiscent of Romper Stomper and Train Spotting. Add a splash of John Waters' Cha-Cha Heels schlock, and we have Love Lies Bleeding, a movie dykes have been waiting decades for.
He's quoting. We'll give him a pass. We'll give you a pass.
In Tiger Salmon's words.
Yeah.
But apt words,
Yeah.
I think.
I think that was the correct and gay version of that looks gay. That looks good. Yeah. What you were saying.
But yeah, Love Lies Bleeding is it's a pulpy noir erotic crime thriller. Like it really is a kind of a genre gumbo, centered around like a very simple story between these two women who randomly fall in love with each other, and it sparks, you know, a kind of violent series of events after that.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're kind of dirtbags in a way. And the movie doesn't make any apologies for that. It's like, yeah, there are people like this.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
Like, what? They can't be in love?
Exactly. And like, you know, a handful of the reviews that I had read of the film from queer reviewers, they were like, kind of had this attitude of like, oh, how refreshing. Like,
yeah,
like the gays, we finally have like a dirty, complicated, morally gray love story, not like the beautiful Oscar bait, you know, that is, you know, kind of spoon fed to the mainstream at the current point.
Yeah. I have to say it. Morally gay. Okay.
So this is Rose Glass's second film.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it's really unique that we're talking about this movie, because a lot of the filmmakers that we talk about have these kind of vast libraries, and, you know, we can kind of look at everything and go, okay, this is what this filmmaker's deal is.
Yeah. Or here's where they're at now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here's their evolution. Yeah. We don't get that with Rose Glass because this is her second film. Yeah. Her first film, Saint Maud, which we both watched, and we both love, is a very different movie.
Completely, yeah. And that was her working alone. Like, not alone, like she didn't do everything herself, but like sole writer, sole director.
Then she co-wrote Love Lies Bleeding with Veronica Tofilska.
Yeah, it might be like Veronica?
Veronica? It's spelled with a W, but in the commentary they pronounced it Veronica.
Oh, cool.
Or like I kind of mix between a W and a V.
Salmon Veronica.
But yeah, and I think it was interesting because in the commentary, Rose Glass does say, like, for her second movie, she kind of like she felt very stressed writing Saint Maud, and was very thankful that she had a writing partner because it was more economical that way. Because you know, if you write something and rather than like spend a week with it like wondering if it's shit, you can
immediately
say,
know.
What do you think of this? You know,
that do anything for you?
Which I agree with, because I can't write anything alone. I need an audience to be like, okay, you're on the right track here. You know?
Yeah, and it's such a dangerous balance from getting feedback from a writer by being like, okay, don't like kiss my ass and tell me it's great, but don't hurt my feelings either.
Well, yeah, like
if it's bad, break it to me gently.
Like, we're both here for the same goal, you know. Yeah. Like we're gonna, you know, make the best movie we can.
Correct. Yeah. I think they nailed it. Then I think their whatever like discussions they had, I think they distilled it into a fine, purposeful mixture. Like the gumbo. It is perfectly seasoned.
And you would think that a movie that draws from so many influences, so many genre influences too, would feel a little disjointed. But I think it is like Bound, kind of a perfectly realized film, I think.
Yeah.
But again, when you try to figure out like what's Rose Glass's thing, you know, okay, let's go look at Saint Maud, and I watched it and I was like, okay, this is a very different movie from Love Lies Bleeding. Saint Maud is about a British woman who is a nurse, but she's like a born again Christian, or she had converted to Catholicism recently, and she's very zealotous, you know. Is that a word?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds right.
She's very zealous about her newfound faith.
Yeah, just very zealous. Zealotous.
Yes.
If zealotous isn't a word,
Overzealous.
overzealous.
Overzealous. She's very overzealous about her newfound faith. And things do not work out for a lot of people in that movie.
It rubs people the wrong way. Yeah.
Love Lies Bleeding is set in New Mexico, and it's a queer story, and it's pulpy. There's a crime thriller. There's action.
Like late 80s?
89. 89, I think, is when it's supposed to be set. Which is great because we were born in the early 90s. So, like, a lot of the...
You're just going to dox me like that? Yeah. I'm wearing my Neo shirt. Whoa. What do you mean I'm from the 90s?
What are you showing me? But I love the production design in Love Lies Bleeding because I was like, oh yeah, that's just my childhood. That's where I lived. You know, is like the kind, because, you know, being born in the late 90s meant that your parents bought all their furniture in the 80s. So all that stuff is still there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, these movies couldn't be more different. Like, genre-wise, Saint Maud is a horror film. You know, Love Lies Bleeding is a crime erotic thriller. Very different settings, very different characters, very different plots. So I was like, okay, like so what is it? What can we boil this down? And it's like, this is what makes like a uniquely Rose Glass thing.
Yeah. Tell us, Rose.
And I have not been able to find anything where she tells us, you know, like, this is my thing. Maybe it's out there. Maybe I didn't do enough research, but, you know, I wanted to have at least one original thought. Okay. So, what I came up with was like Rose Glass's thing is, I think she really likes to play with characters, who, engage in dangerous love.
That's so specific that it's got to be original.
It's got, yes.
Yeah. Dangerous love.
So in the case of Saint Maud, right? She has this like obsession with her new faith. She has this like love for, and I don't know if it's, you know, capital G God, right? But it's like her version of God. She has these delusions of grandeur, and she worships her God, right? And I think there's a love that she is pining for there. Everything that she does, she's kind of trying to feel closer to God.
Yeah, it's in service of that.
Yeah.
With fuck everything else.
Yeah, and there's even a point in the movie that kind of plays like a romance film, where she has a fight with the woman that she's nursing, and she slaps her in the face at her birthday party and gets fired.
Yeah, I remember that now.
And so there's this sequence where she almost kind of like rebels, and she goes out and gets drunk and parties and goes, and she jerks one dude off in the bar, and then she goes home and fucks another guy, you know?
I don't remember that.
Heterosex? What?
Not very saint-like.
So like it even plays like a romance movie beat where there's like the falling out kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But then she, you know, she convinces herself, oh, this was another test, you know, and, you know,
the beer goggles come off and she's like, I'm sorry about that, God.
Yeah. I really went off the rails there a little bit, huh?
How do you want me to hurt myself today in repentance? Yeah.
No, yeah, that's exactly what she does. That's you get that like cool shot from the trailer where she's putting those pins
In her shoes.
in her
right?
shoes, and
I remember that.
and so in a very similar way, Love Lies Bleeding is about characters, is about women who are tempted is not the right word, but who are attracted, pulled into a kind of love that's bad for them. Obviously, you have the budding relationship between Lou and Jackie, two people, and that ignites the whole plot of the movie, in which Jackie ends up like killing a couple of people, and Lou needs to frame her father. It's the combination of these two characters that makes the rest of the plot happen, and kind of impossible love. You know?
And I think what makes it unique is that it's not impossible because they're gay and they're going against society. I think even her dad, who, oh my God, name the actor?
Ed Harris.
Ed Harris was like,
Lou Sr.
was like, I never cared about any of that. Even the most evil man was like, I didn't care about that. So it's not about like their love for each other being the forbidden thing. It's just that they're kind of fucked up.
They as people don't bode well for the people around them. You know what I mean?
Like Kristen Stewart is kind of a hothead. And Jackie is definitely a hothead, but it's because of her.
Jackie's roided out.
Yeah, her steroid addiction.
Yeah.
Which we got such a brief tease with that I was like, what do they mean by that? Near the beginning when she's like, hey, I got some, like, do you want to do, like, Kristen Stewart was just going to offer her some steroids because she saw like, oh, she's a very like muscular woman. Like surely she'll have some of this.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, no. Juices. Yeah. She's like, no, this is all natural. Like I don't need that. So she like casually tries to push it away.
Yeah.
But Kristen Stewart's like, it's free. Like I'm not asking anything in return for this.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right. Like, where do you want it? My butt.
My butt. And then she just kisses her after that. I love that scene because the kiss is like expected, but it's also not expected, right? Like in that beat in the scene, like she just goes and kisses, and then the sex scene ensues.
Yeah. And then a little U-hauling. A little U-hauling occurs after that. I'm trying to use some terms that I'm learning,
Yeah, Derek learned what U-hauling is.
Yeah. Do you want to explain U-hauling? Or do you want me to, I'll do my best guess of what U-hauling was. To my understanding, U-hauling was, it's a gay community term, right?
Yeah.
When you like just fall so hard for the other person that you're seeing that you're like, hey, so like, when can I move in? Kind of thing.
Right.
So is this our couch now? Is this our kitchen?
I think specifically it's a lesbian community thing.
Okay.
I think it's a joke within the community that lesbians move very fast.
Cut right to the chase.
Yeah. Brittany said it's when both parties are so emotionally available that you just cut straight to the chase.
Yeah.
Which, you see that play out in the day after scene. Where they're eating eggs, and Jackie kind of reveals that she really has nowhere to stay, but then Lou's like, no, fuck all that, like you can stay here. Like,
yeah,
it's not I'm doing you a favor. It's no, I want you around always.
Yeah. It's what you don't understand is please don't leave.
Yeah.
Stay.
I'm not gonna say that, but please don't leave.
You're the best thing in my life right now, kind of thing.
But it's not just Lou and Jackie that are engaging in this dangerous kind of moth to the flame like version of love. Daisy is just an unfortunate character.
Yeah, this girl who's kind of like a hanger on to Lou, being like, "Hey Lou, so what you doing?"
Always asking her to hang out. Yeah. Let's go to the bar together. Lou's always just trying to get the fuck rid of her. And she's got these like meth teeth.
Yeah.
But I think the funniest scene with Daisy is when she goes to see her, and she's basically like trying to be like, you know, it was so weird that I saw you in JJ's car that night, you know? And,
Yeah.
and
What was
she's-
that girl doing driving your truck?
Exactly. What was that like? What does she say? What was that big girl, you know, doing, you know?
Yeah, she has to get the knife in there a
Yeah,
little
because
bit.
Daisy's femme, right?
Yeah.
But she gives Lou a card. I think I can't remember what occasion it was for, but she gives her a card, and there's a spliff in the card.
Yeah.
And Lou says, I quit everything, you know? And then it cuts to Daisy, and Daisy goes, oh my God, should I quit too? No. Oh my God, do you want me to quit too? That's what she says. Like, this woman is so delusional.
Is that a like emotional U-hauling? Like, oh yeah, then I quit too. Yeah, we're quitting.
Dude, I feel like Daisy thinks that they're like a couple.
Like they're
you know what I
in
mean?
like an open relationship.
Exactly.
Or something.
Yeah. Like, I feel like maybe one night Lou threw her a bone, you know? And then she's been a fucking hanger-on ever since, you know?
Yeah. Maybe because the pickings are so slim
In that town, yeah.
that she bats often enough, she's gonna hit a home run.
It's a numbers game, baby.
Yeah.
But so the reason it's dangerous is because like Lou's got baggage, you know? She's in the middle of this plot. Daisy is too stupid to even understand what's happening. She gets fucking shot in the head.
Yeah.
By
Jackie.
Jackie.
Yeah.
So, you know, that didn't turn out good for her. And then you have Jenna Malone's character, Beth, who's Lou's sister. She's married to Dave Franco, who's just an abusive piece of shit, right?
Yeah. JJ got a rat tail. Perfectly despicable. Perfectly despicable, man.
Do you think, okay, I think the one problem I have with this movie, and it's not even really a problem, it's just kind of funny to me. I think Dave Franco is hilariously miscast in this movie.
Okay.
He's
in what way?
He's too mousy to be intimidating. You know what I mean? He's Dave Franco, you know?
Okay. Maybe that's just like our baggage as like
Maybe.
as viewers being like, yeah, you're the haha guy.
Right.
You make me laugh.
Maybe it's because he's mousy that he's got to take it out on his wife, who's not as strong as him. You know, maybe that's what he does. And even in the commentary or a special feature, they were talking about how the reason they gave him a rat tail is because of Ed Harris's character. He has those extensions.
Oh my God.
Ed Harris looking the most fucking insane he's ever looked.
Yes. I said he looked like the Crypt Keeper if he just had skin.
It's fucking jarring the first time you see him. But because Ed Harris has those extensions, like JJ grows a rat tail because he's trying to be like him.
Oh.
You know?
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. In which case he's probably perfectly cast because he's just a little piece of shit, you know, who wants to be big dog.
Yeah.
But the best shit he can spin is beating his poor fucking wife, you know?
Yeah. And you know Kristen Stewart, Lou, can take him in a fight.
Yeah.
She's just choosing not to because she loves her sister.
Right. Beth's wish. Right. So Beth is hopelessly in love with this man who's going to kill her someday, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my thesis on Rose Glass.
The dangerous love.
Yes.
Yeah, that tracks.
So we'll see what her third movie has in store for us.
If it's called Dangerous Love, 10%.
Residuals.
20%.
Rose.
We got to split it.
I think genre is very important to this movie as well. Like I said, it is kind of a gumbo of a lot of different things, and I think it executes on the tropes of those genres, and it subverts those genres like perfectly, excellently. Yeah. A lot of the reviews that I read for Love Lies Bleeding, you know, make mention of it as a melting pot for genres, but there's a lot of focus on like the influences of other auteurs on the film. They draw a lot of comparisons between the Coen brothers, for example, and then David Lynch, right? So like,
Yeah. I personally don't understand the David Lynch one.
well, I mean, it's like, is there dark comedy mixed with crime elements? Sure.
Yeah.
Are we treated to kind of like sudden, inexplicable, like Lynchian, surreal moments? Sure, right? But like, I don't know if we need to dwell on that all too much, you know?
Right.
In the same way that you brought up how like critics were quick to point out De Palma's Hitchcock influences, I feel like a lot of critics were quick to point out like the Coen and Lynch influences on the film. But like this movie is not those movies, you know.
Right.
It's something on its own entirely. Like it's a prism. If you will, right? It's a rainbow coming out of it. That's what I was going with.
Yeah. See, at least you were trying to say something original with Dangerous Love and all that stuff. These guys were like, you ever thought about the films of David Lynch and the Coen brothers?
Right.
The man version of this? No. Tell me a woman-led film that it reminds you of.
Exactly.
It's gonna be a little harder to think of.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think, you know, like Rose Glass herself says a big influence on the movie was Showgirls, which you brought up earlier.
Hey.
She uses a kind of like a visual, you know, reference for the movie. But yeah, I just think they are connections that a reviewer feels compelled to make. I don't know how important it is to say
or like
it.
how much stock I would put in those comparisons.
Right. Which leads me to the only review that I think matters of this movie.
Lay it on us.
Director John Waters
Heard of him. Okay. King, go off.
ranked Love Lies Bleeding first in a list of his favorite movies of 2024, saying the hilarious, bloody film noir is the best movie of the year. One that Russ Meyer might have made if he had been a lesbian intellectual addicted to steroids.
Yes. See, I love John because it's absolutely something he would fucking say.
Yeah.
Like there's no there's no doubt in me when I hear something John Waters has said. I'm like, oh yeah. That was someone else. He is so unique in just what he says. Just his opinion. I put a lot of stock in his opinion. So
Right.
great.
And he didn't go for the low-hanging fruit of the Coen brothers or David Lynch.
Like Russ Meyer.
Yeah.
just like maybe 2 cigarettes in one hand. Be like Russ Meyer if he was addicted to cocaine. You know?
Dude, oh my God. Wouldn't it be great to like make a noir film, like a black and white noir film, but like have John Waters as like a character in it?
Yes.
Like do a cameo.
Yeah.
We need to get him on the phone right now.
You know what? Oh, sorry. You know what? You know what would also be great? You know how he did the that video where he's like, the theaters told me that you shouldn't be smoking.
Yeah.
You know? We should have a new one of that in front of Love Lies Bleeding because of all the things about like trying to quit smoking. He's like, this film would like to tell you that you should quit smoking. That'd be perfect. Anyways, enjoy the best thriller of 2024.
Yeah.
You know? Again, 10%, 20% for that idea.
I really don't know where I'm going with this part of the conversation. I just wrote visual elements I liked. So I want to throw them out.
What else do you need?
And we'll talk about them.
Yeah.
Okay. So the crevasse.
Oh, where all the bodies get dumped.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the first shot of the
Dude.
movie.
You know what that is? That's a container. It's very sapphic. That's a vagina is what I'm saying.
Yes. And we're going through it
Ooh.
as the first shot of the movie. Call it crass. Call it a little on the nose.
Call it what you want. We call it art.
Exactly. You goddamn right. Ooh, okay. One thing that I really love. I don't think you really need to look too deep into it, but I love those little flashbacks that Lou has. I think the first one we get is when she's like feeding the membership cards through the laminator, and it's just a flash of a POV shot, and she's holding a big ass gun.
Yeah.
And
like,
it's red.
Yeah. All of these like flashes are just red.
Yeah.
Red on the person or the object being shown, and then just like a black background.
Exactly.
So like devoid of any location or context.
And then you get a couple more of them that are, they're shots of Ed Helms kind of looking on approvingly.
Ed Harris. Ed Helms. Imagine Ed Helms in this movie.
And there's a shot of Ed Harris kind of like looking on dementedly but approvingly, you're like, what's that about?
I think his demeanor shifts. That's what's interesting about getting those glimpses is like trying to read into what that look could mean.
Yeah. What are we looking at? What, and then there's one with Lou Jr. in it, and you're like, what is, and then there's another shot of like a man who's like tied up and he's getting shot and he's falling into the crevice, and you're realizing this is a memory. This is a memory, or maybe a metaphorical memory, a representation of a memory.
Yeah.
Of Lou's relationship with her father.
Yeah. Or how it felt doing that is just red.
Because he is, I don't know if I would call him a crime lord or a mafia figure. He's a criminal. He runs a criminal empire.
He's some kind of smuggler. I think they mentioned he's like a weapons smuggler.
He runs
because
guns across the border. Yeah.
He's got that gun range.
And you get the sense that Lou used to work in the family business, you know, and that she was very much kind of a protege, right? I mean, she's his namesake,
Oh, wow. Okay. I never picked that up. I feel bad. I feel bad. That's true. And then maybe that's why, or maybe it's because she is a bit, she's more butch than her sister. So that's maybe why Ed Harris took her under his wing as opposed to Beth.
She's stronger than her sister, for sure, and the, like, it's really interesting to see this kind of, it's when the movie is set and the kind of characters that we're looking at, like the strain on the family is not that she's gay. It's that she didn't want to work in the family business anymore, Yeah. And so that scene plays out. And then I noticed something. It's when, I think it's like after JJ his body is like found, Lou Jr. has gone to a soda machine and she in the hospital, and she's getting a soda. Lou Sr. comes in, and Kristen Stewart, she puts coins in, but the Coke's not coming out. Lou Sr. he puts another quarter in the machine, hits it, and she gets a soda, which I think is fantastic, like business, It's it's character building without a piece of dialogue written about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's the first time that Lou Sr. kind of is confronting her about this. Like, I think he either really definitely knows or suspects that she had something to do with this, right? Because she's one of the only people that we know of diegetically in the movie who's even aware that the crevasse exists.
Yeah.
And so when they're having this conversation, they're having it in front of a Coke machine that's reflecting red light on their faces.
Okay. Yeah. So this could be another, like, in time, this moment will also be like those moments that we see flashed back of like red, or it's meant to evoke that feeling.
I took it as like, it's not quite this, but the first thing that I wrote down was like, no more bullshit. Like we're being our real selves now, which I thought was, it's just really cool.
Yeah, no,
it's really cool filmmaking.
Yeah, very Lynchian is what you meant to say, actually. Yeah.
Well, what's Lynchian are these moments where Jackie fucking hulks out, dude.
Oh yeah, where she's going in a roid hole.
Yeah. So like we get it in inserts when she like flexes her muscles. I wore a muscle shirt today. I don't know if you
That's
noticed.
your tribute. Mine is Neo. Yours is the muscle shirt.
Mine is
You know, okay. Now that you mention it, I did want to pitch us trying to wear outfits that related to our movies for this episode. So it's funny that I thought that never spoke it to you, never even implied it, but we ended up doing it anyways.
No, yeah.
That's cool.
Before I left this morning, Brittany was like very on brand for the theme of the episode. So every time she flexes her muscles, we get that insert shot of it just going, you know, muscles popping out.
Yeah, which is cool because it contrasts with those close-up shots of their bodies when they're having sex. So there's like those very intimate, like sexy shots, and then we get a of the muscles, and we're like, "Yep, what was that?"
Yeah,
you know,
it's kind of. I don't want to get too heady here, but it's like it's kind of like The Fly, you know.
Yeah,
where she's slowly turning into this other thing. You know?
Yeah. I think also Rose Glass said that David Cronenberg is a big influence of hers, actually. I picked that up from some interviews that I was reading.
There it is. But then, okay, so I had seen the movie 3 times at this point because I watched it with you, I watched it with Brittany, and then I watched the commentary track, and I didn't notice it until my 3rd time. The scene when she kills JJ, which is fantastic because she just comes in, it's very quick. She comes in, overpowers him, throws him to the ground, and then just fucking like essentially curb stomps him onto his own table.
Yeah, it's either like mid scream or he doesn't have time to scream is how quick it is.
Yeah, she takes him out. Yeah. But there's a wide shot after she like lets his body fall, and she's like abnormally large for the room. Did you catch that?
No. Okay. That's like one of the first instances of that kind of.
I think so. I could be fucking tripping. I don't know.
No, I don't
go
think so.
back and watch it again.
I will.
When she's standing in the room over his body, she just looks too big for the room.
Yeah. Okay. Like that on first glance might not even
register. And I think that's intentional, right? Like it's like she's slightly too big, right?
Yeah. And
so I think there's something going on in Jackie's story where like she's becoming something that she's not, right? Because you said it yourself when she's offered the I was gonna say testosterone, the steroid. When she's offered the steroids, she says, "No, I'm au naturel," right? But she gets kind of like addicted to doing the steroids.
Yeah, which implies that she's had that relationship with them before, too.
Sure, but like, so in the same way that the steroids are turning her into something, or like kind of perverting her, this passion she has about bodybuilding, she is becoming a killer too, you know? And so that change, these Hulk out moments kind of coincide with these other moments where she's doing something that's very unnatural to her as well.
Yeah. I think I love that we get that. That's how she like maybe sees herself or she feels about herself when she's on steroids or doing these terrible things.
Like she feels big and powerful.
Yeah. And it leads to violence, right? But then
always, every time.
But then, like when Lou, Kristen Stewart, sees her later, like specifically near the end of the movie, when the tides are turning against Ed Harris, and they've kind of like reconciled. They're like, hey, like I know you've done terrible things, but I'm here to save you. Like let's get the fuck out of here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's like this moment where Jackie appears like huge, like she hulks out, but she is huge, like on like 30 feet tall, like Attack of a 30 foot, 50 foot woman, literally. And that's how Lou sees her. is this big towering goddess
Yes.
here for her. Not to like do like uncontrollable chaos, but to come in and save her and like work together.
Yeah.
And then they overpower Ed Harris. But then there's that shot afterwards of them both being huge goddesses, like flocking, like skipping through like the clouds, basically. We were just like, I remember us watching them. We were like, this is awesome. This is so sick. Like it kind of came out of nowhere when you're watching it the first time. But I think with what you said about her own framing of like what steroids is doing to her body, or what her body is shown to be transforming into right before these moments of violence, and then we see that in the inverse of it being used in a beautiful way, when it's used in the service of love, and she's this big goddess. I'm like, oh, okay, definitely intentional.
Those moments are so striking because this is a movie that's, you know, otherwise grounded in reality. You know? And I just think that's really cool that like we can have a movie where a filmmaker feels, you know, liberated enough to go, we don't have to be so literal all the time. You know, we can make a woman 30 feet tall. And that says the same thing as if they had a dialogue scene where she's like, I finally see you for, you know, who you are or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My last bit about Love Lies Bleeding, you know, I'll say that I'm really glad Kristen Stewart is now in the phase of her career where she's able to pick the parts she wants rather than the ones her career needs.
Yes. I'm nodding. I am nodding.
You know, I wrote her off during her Twilight years and well after, you know.
So many people did.
I have said so many times, like, I don't think she can act, you know. And like even that like Runaways movie where she was supposed to play Joan Jett was just so fucking tired of a movie. You know, I just didn't get it, but I honestly think she's probably like at that point in time was a victim of her own success, and she was just kind of, you know, kind of locked into these roles. But when you look at something like Love Lies Bleeding, or another movie that we watched together, Underwater, she fucking rocks it in Underwater.
Underwater's great. Yeah.
I found a quote that I included in this just for you.
Okay.
In her New York Times review of Love Lies Bleeding, Manola Dargis says, Pauline Kael wrote that Jane Fonda's motor runs a little fast, and so does Kristen Stewart's.
Okay.
So
awesome.
yeah,
Awesome.
I'll just say I love all of the talent that they were able to put in this fucking movie. Ed Harris is great. Like he almost like steals the show, you know.
Yeah.
Katie O'Brien. I don't know if this would be considered like her breakout, but like she fucking knocked it out of the park with it. And then Kristen Stewart, who has been seen as this certain kind of actor for so long, is now able to kind of play. And I love that like Robert Pattinson is doing the same thing.
Yeah,
you know?
we're having a real big moment, and it's of going like, okay, we can all move past Twilight now, please.
Yeah.
Because there's talent there, and I think they were victims of being caught up in that big budget Hollywood movie of that time.
Yeah.
And I think Kristen Stewart got it worse, honestly, way worse, because she was in, I don't know if you remember this, Panic Room, David Fincher's Panic Room.
Yeah.
That was 2002.
She was a kid in that movie.
She was 12. Dude.
Yeah.
I was 12. I'm doing it again. I'm outing my age here.
Do the math everyone real quick.
But I remember going to see that in the theater, and I remember universally everyone was like, hey, that kid was good.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Twilight happens 6 years later. There was some stuff in between that, naturally. But, you know, she landed Twilight. And then all of a sudden it was like, what is she doing? Like, oh God, isn't she's so terrible. She doesn't know how to, I don't know what to think of this character. And you know what? Maybe just the character was bad and she was doing the best that she could with the material,
Yeah.
you know? And then it was
Arpats
also
too.
Arpats too.
But yeah, it is. She did get the criticism, I think, a lot worse.
Yeah. And because it was like, she had that obligation to be like a young star and represent like women. Whereas like Robert Pattinson is just the hunk of the week.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But I can't even imagine like that type of pressure put on you for like what 2008 to 2012, like four or 5 years, like constantly. Like those movies shot back to back.
Yeah, and then on top of it, they have a very public relationship too.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that because then there was a very public thing that happened after those movies were over. She did this movie called Snow White and the Huntsman. She had an affair with the director, or like it was a very small like affair. When it was like brought to light, they both went, "Oh yeah, we shouldn't have done that. Like our bad." They like called it off immediately. She felt terrible about it, and like the press and like public opinion would just like turned against her. Like, oh my God, like we knew it. They were just looking for another excuse to dogpile on her, basically. And then like a few years, maybe not even a few years later, maybe like the next year, we get like reports that like, oh, she's like dating women now. And we're like, what's up with that?
What's up with that?
What's up with that? Yeah. And then like, you know, a couple more years go by and it's just, there's more stories about like, she's dating woman after woman.
Yeah.
And then finally in like 2017, she's like, I'm bisexual. And then we start hearing more of her like personal accounts of what she went through during the Twilight time of like, you need to be this specific type of woman. Like you need to be attractive to men kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just telling an 18 or 19-year-old like, no. Be fuckable, you know? That's
right.
Awful. That's so gross, you know? And then
be fuckable so we can sell these movies.
Yeah.
You know?
And then that gets, you know, laundered through like, oh, like she's a bad actress. You know, that comes down the grapevine to the layman who's watching the movie like, oh, she's a bad actress. We shouldn't watch anything she's in. But she's got all this pressure. But now we're past that. You know, Twilight's dead and gone. And now Love Lies Bleeding. We got Love Lies Bleeding. And I hope we're in a new era where we get more like this, maybe hopefully a lot more from Kristen Stewart, because I know she's got it in her. And everyone says there's a lot of reviews that I read where it was like, we loved seeing this like greaseball side of her.
Greaseball, but also like if I can take a minute to like make a connection with our previous movies that we talked about. Can you not see her like embodying a role that like Matt Dillon would have played? You know, like as this character, you know? She's a fucking hunk, dude.
Yeah. She's Sam in Wild Things.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't.
Well, I was thinking
I don't fuck my students.
I was thinking like The Outsiders.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She could do The Outsiders.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You opened my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So after talking about the two movies, aside from the fact that, you know, they're erotic thrillers featuring queer characters shot in a female gaze. Mm-hmm. I think that these two movies are really great comparison pieces to the movies we covered in our last episode.
Yeah.
Wild Things and Body Double revolve around dumb men, largely motivated by sex or money, right? It's that conquest, you know, incentive.
Yeah.
Their plots, they're propelled by scheming, you know, sexual conquest. Bound and Love Lies Bleeding, on the other hand, they're about passion and falling in love with someone dangerous and the consequences, of that.
Yeah, or the desire for like a better situation than what they currently have.
Yeah.
With each other.
Yeah. The eroticism here is a different kind of eroticism than you would see in Wild Things or Body Double. It's more exploitative in those films. In these films, while they're still hot,
Yes.
just that shot, like a shot of two mouths almost touching, is as hot as the shot of Kristen Stewart going like I'm gonna stretch you out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she's just like,
Yeah. Is this how you do it? Is this how you do it?
Yeah,
There's no nudity.
You see nothing, but you're like, oh my fucking God, this is
Yeah.
dirty.
Yeah. Yep. They wanted her to cut that out.
Fuck that.
I know. They're wrong.
It's a different kind of sexuality, but it still is hot and dirty and complicated, and it's deeply intertwined with like the romantic connection again, rather than I keep coming up with that word, conquest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so much. There is the sex component, right? But there's so much more to it than that. Whereas there's not that much going on other than the sex with Body Double and Wild Things. Yeah. Being completely honest, still love those movies. You can still have a good, entertaining movie that's a little thinner.
Yeah, and like Body Double is a movie I think that is 100% like plot propelled, right? These movies are a little more character propelled.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that like these movies are better movies and more deserving of our praise than those two movies. Yeah. They're just different movies, and I think all four of them, they play in this broader genre in different ways. And I think they're if anything, they're fun. They're just great movies to watch.
Yeah. There's good cinema, there's bad cinema. It's still cinema.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we followed up Body Double and Wild Things with these two movies, just to show how wildly different that they can be, and you can still enjoy the hell out of them.
Absolutely. You could have different portrayals of love, different portrayals of sex, different ways to play in this crime thriller genre.
Yeah.
And I think all four of these movies are unique and fun and challenging. Watch all four of them.
Yeah. And I think that's going to do it for us today.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think that's it for today's episode, but I had a blast. Jake, I think you had a blast too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.